Welcome to the Triple S podcast. Today we look forward to the NBA playoffs, predict the conference finals, and talk about the biggest disappointments in this NBA season. Right now, the Bucks and the Nuggets are the favorites to make it out of their respective conferences. They're both the one seeds. However, I think that neither one are going to make the conference finals. I think they'll both be eliminated in the second round. Uh, Obviously, I think the Nuggets are going to win their first series, most likely against the Pelicans, maybe against the Thunder or the Lakers. However, I don't think that they have the star power to overcome the Suns. Uh, they have Nikola Jokic, which may be back to back to back MVP, but outside of that, they don't really have a lot compared to the Suns, who have Devin Booker and KD. And if we see playoff KD, it's going to be really dangerous. And while they might have some trouble stopping Nikola Jokic, they can definitely outflank him, and they can definitely. I think it's going to be a shootout of a series, but the Suns are just too loaded for the Nuggets to overcome. Nuggets don't really have the depth. And they've been recently struggling without Jokic, including two losses to the Suns in this last week. The other Western team that I think will be able to advance to the conference finals are the Kings. They have not made the playoffs since 2006. They haven't been to the conference finals since 2002. That was the longest active streak in all of sports. But I think that this is a prime opportunity for them to do it. They have De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis in that pick and roll situation out there, and they've been really hot this season, almost getting 50 wins. And they will play the Warriors in the first round, which will prove to be a tough matchup. They've had some great games this season. The Warriors are currently 3-1 in those games. However, they did play yesterday, and neither Fox or Sabonis played, so I don't think that that's really fair. And Clay and Steph are really getting older, and I don't know if they have that same power during the postseason that a young team like Sabonis and Fox and the rest of the Sacramento Kings have. In the Eastern Conference, I think that the clear favorites, they're not the third seed, but the clear favorites are the Celtics, led by Jason Tatum, who I think should really be considered an MVP candidate. The Bucks have the best record, like I said, but they really lack depth outside of Giannis. And while they do have Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and Brook Lopez, which are all good additional pieces, to make a run in the playoffs, they're really going to need Giannis to show up. He's out with a knee injury right now. I'm not sure if that's just to let him sit in this last week, or if he really does have a knee injury that could affect him for the rest of the season. But it's something interesting to look at here. And if he's out for some of it, they're obviously going to go down in the first or in the second round. But even if Giannis is in there, they're probably going to have to face the Cavaliers in the second round. And the Cavaliers are a really good team. And even more, they have the best defense in the league, anchored by their two bigs, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, who pride themselves on their defense and on their stopping ability. And as we've seen in the past, the way to stop the Bucks is just to stop Giannis from getting inside, and that's going to be very difficult against the Cavaliers. So I think that it might be a game that goes 6 or 7 games. It's going to be very close, but the Cavs I think are going to get that one, and so I think that the conference finals in the East are going to be Cavs versus Celtics, and in the West it'll be Kings versus Suns. I think that the finals matchup will be Celtics versus Suns, and I think that it's going to go to 6 games because it's going to be competitive, especially if KD's showing up and Jason Tatum's showing up. But I think that the Celtics are going to win. Jason Tatum's going to be Finals MVP, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are just such a tandem, and they really have a good supporting cast out there. Peyton Pritchard just scored a 30-point triple double last night. Robert Williams III has been doing really well this season, and I think that that's going to be really vital to their postseason chances, and I think that they'll win it all. But there's going to be some teams that most likely aren't going to win it all this season, and teams that we thought that were going to be very good coming this season. Two that I want to highlight right here as biggest disappointments. The first is the Mavericks, who went all in for Kyrie. They traded a lot of picks, a lot of role players. They really gave up their depth for a player who has been controversial in the past, who has sat out in the past, and who's an unrestricted free agent here. this summer. So they really went all into getting a championship for Luka this season, and it didn't work out. They missed the playoffs, and Kyrie's most likely going to walk, meaning they're not going to get anything for all that talent and all those picks that they gave up. And they're going to have to rebuild once again around Luka, who now probably has to reconsider if he wants to re-sign there long term, if he wants to be a lifer, because he's somebody who's an MVP talent. He's somebody who's really special, and if they're not putting around him the team that he needs, I think that he very well needs to consider leaving. I'm not saying this offseason, but in the next coming years. The other team I wanted to highlight was LeBron James and the Lakers. Bringing in Russell Westbrook was a complete failure, and because of that, they wasted another year of good LeBron James by surrounding him with people that do not fit his play style. Any time that you only have a 7 seed when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, that's going to be a disappointment. They should be a top 5, a top 3 seed every year. And LeBron is getting older and older, and while he has been playing really well recently, we do have to look on how much time should be given to this Lakers organization to really get it together for LeBron. Because he's most likely going to play until Bronny comes into the league, which means not next year but the year after. So the Lakers might just have one more year with LeBron, so they really have to put something special together this offseason. So obviously these two teams are not going to be featured in my top 10 power rankings this week, the last power rankings before the postseason. Number 1, I have the team that I think is going to win it all, which is the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown especially have been playing great this season, and I expect them to really jump up to the echelon of a really top-tier team, if they're not already, at this postseason and next season. Number 2 is also in the East, the Bucks. I mean, any team that has Giannis should be up here. Number 3 is the Nuggets. Again, Nikola Jokic back-to-back MVP most likely. And if not, it's going to be because of that number 4 team that I have here, the 76ers. It's going to be Joel Embiid, who's going to be MVP. And the Nuggets, I think, are a team that really also needs to put something around their star player, because they made a really good run last year, and they may very well this year again, but they don't have the star power around them. And, I mean, we've seen some teams go all in, like the Dallas Mavericks, which haven't gone well, so maybe they should stick with what they're doing, but I personally think they need to find another star quickly. As I said, number 4 is the Philadelphia 76ers. Number 5 is Cleveland Cavaliers, who I think have really surprised everyone. They were really bad last year, but with that core of young players, and they brought in Donovan Mitchell, and that seems to be a spark. I'm really excited for this team's future. They're really young, and I think that they can do a lot of good things in the future. Number 6 is Memphis. They were doing really well before all that controversy with Ja Morant, but they're still a really young team, a really good team, centered around Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, and Ja. Number 7, the Suns, who I think are going to make the finals this year. We don't know how long that success could be put together, because it's a really expensive team and it's a rather old team. But it's a team with Devin Booker, with Chris Paul, with DeAndre Ayton, and especially with Kevin Durant. I think they're going to be really good here in this postseason. Number 8 is the Kings, who surprised everyone this year. But again, they're another really good young team who really have players that fit really well in that system. A lot of pick and roll. Fastest player in the league in De'Aaron Fox. Number 9 is another surprise team, the Knicks. Jalen Brunson really came out of that role player role this season, and I think he's going to be a star. And number 10 is the Warriors, who, despite them getting older, they're still really good, and I think that they'll make some noise this postseason, even if they're playing a really good team in the Kings in the first round. But that's all I have today. I'm excited to see the rest of the NBA postseason, and I'll see you next time.